The ability to imitate is one of the great evolutionary advantages of our species. Through imitation, we learn how to speak, hunt, and build. But there comes a time when imitation falls short, and for better or worse, we are left to plow the soil at our own feet. What we admire about great minds like Shakespeare, Plato, and Milton is that they spoke not what was true of their time, but what was true to themselves. They had the courage to follow their own thoughts and their own convictions, to trust in our own intuition, and that spontaneous insight which flashes across each of our minds. That is genius. Yet all too often we dismiss these thoughts simply because they are our own. Instead of owning up to our brilliance, we give it all away. In every work of genius, we find our own discarded thoughts, and with shame we must take it from another what we have thought and felt the whole time. American writers Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau were the central figures behind the transcendentalist movement of the 1830s. It was an idealistic philosophy developed not to oppose the empirical method of science, but rather to focus on the power of the individual. Emerson and Thoreau expanded on the system of thought developed by Immanuel Kant, who believed that to understand the nature of reality, one must first examine the reasoning process which governs the nature of experience. One of the key beliefs of transcendentalism is that there's a divinity which pervades all nature and all humanity, as well as a belief in the inherent goodness which exists in all people. They believe that society and its institutions, particularly organized religion and political parties, corrupt the purity of the individual. They have faith that people are at their best when truly self-reliant and independent. The great fear that tears us from this self-trust is our apparent obligation to consistency. The eyes of the crowd have no means for gauging our personality other than from our past actions, and we are terrified to disappoint them. We carry along this corpse of past action because it is the only way for us to find recognition in the eyes of the public. To the self-reliant individual, the eyes of the crowd are of no significance. Speak what you believe now, and tomorrow speak what you believe then. You are sure to contradict yourself, and thus you are sure to be misunderstood. Pythagoras was misunderstood, and Socrates, and Jesus, and Galileo, and Newton, and every pure and wise spirit that has ever been. Greatness has no need to explain itself in the present. Its loyalty is to the future. Its journey is one of zigs and zags, moves and counter-moves, actions and contradictions. Our apparently contradictory acts or decisions can only truly be examined at the end, when the entire corpus of our life's work can be taken in at once. To exhibit originality is to tap into our childlike nature. Children are the perfect model of self-reliant behavior because they are too young to be hesitant and fearful. They are possessed by a need for self-discovery. They apply their own standards to the world and have no care for how their actions are interpreted by those around them. This stands in sharp contrast with the attitude of cautious adults who, because they are overly concerned with reputation, approval, and the opinion of others, have great difficulty acting genuinely or spontaneously. The worst thing one can be in the crowd is inconsistent, but it is in consistency that we find the death of individuality. Our culture gives us identity, but at the same time it views our societal role as the totality of who we are. It protects, molds, constrains, and limits us all at the same time. No matter how much your father, your mother, your friends, or your culture may try, they can never truly insulate you from reality. Instead, we must surrender, give in completely to the temptation of discovery and our curiosity of the unknown. It is a path that must be walked alone, but it requires only one thing: to trust in yourself, like all the great minds of history have done. In doing so, you will find that childlike genius waiting to be discovered. I know we've all had this same experience. You get home from a long day at work feeling absolutely exhausted. You know you should read a book or do something productive with your time, but all you want is to collapse and drift to sleep. Then you remember your Audible app and the fact that you have over 180,000 titles right at your fingertips. You can now drift away as the soothing narration of your favorite book slowly lulls you to sleep.
Keep still, he orders, and slowly he inserts his thumb inside me, rotating it around and around, stroking the front wall of my vagina.